everyone, this is Daniel Bashta. Yes,
Hi, everybody.
yes. Let me tell you quickly how I first heard about Daniel. And there's something I love about this. I was listening to the radio, and he was on Life Songs, and he was doing an interview. You don't remember the guy's name? It doesn't matter, but he was a nice guy. He was a good guy. And I'm just minding my own business, not realizing that everyone and their brother knows this guy except me. And I'm listening to him, and I thought, oh my gosh, he's giving this testimony that I wanted to share with you about his adopted son. And, you know, as many of you know, I'm real big on purpose and destiny. You were created on purpose, for a purpose, just so you know. And this testimony, I thought, if that little child ever can get a grasp of this mama, well, you're going to hear it in a minute. Oh my gosh, talk about purpose, sovereignty, providential move of God. I was very moved. So I love Life Songs. I'm on there all the time with them, and I wrote them, and I said, I want Daniel Bashta. They said, well, you'll get Daniel Bashta. So I wrote, and that's how we got him. So the minute I started telling people, hey, I booked this guy named Daniel Bashta, it was like I got all embarrassed. Because they're like, oh my gosh, we've loved him for years. And we know his mom, and we know his sister Heather, or no, Harvest. Well, it's an H, there we go. You know, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even know, I'm so embarrassed. But we're thrilled we have him. So that's how I first heard of Daniel Bashta. So Daniel, look, you were born. Give us a little bit about your history. Born
All right,
where?
So I was the first baby born in 1982 here in New Orleans. So I know. So this is the motherland. And the paper did like a big article, and it was, you know, I mean, man, how do you top that? I haven't been able to, so I mean, we've just been working on it, you know. But so I grew up here actually in Laplace till I was about 17. My family, my dad, mom, and we have 5 kids in the family, and we're a missionary family and pastor's kids. So we lived all over the world. We lived in Russia for 4 years, and we were a part of 25 different church plants. And back in the early 90s, when it was crazy, we were smuggling Bibles into China, and so I mean. Worship and missions is just a huge part of our DNA in the Bashta family, and so it's just really cool whenever you can actually get out into the world and just see the love of God for culture and His people, and that's why I really love New Orleans, because there's really no city like it on the earth, and it's so diverse, and there's so much culture and music. And even coming here to Victory, I mean, I grew up, you know, me and Jason Moran are good friends, and I love the Mute Math guys, and I mean, this place is such a place of worship and fresh sound, and yeah. So it's just been just a really pleasure just to come hang out and worship with y'all, just see God stir things up.
Very good, very good. You're married.
I am married.
How many years? 8 years? 7 years?
7 years.
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Yes.
Tell us briefly about the testimony of the adoption.
A few years ago, my son is 3 years old. We started this beautiful journey of adoption, and I mean, it's wild how, you know, growing up in the church your whole life, you know, like most of us, we probably had this love relationship with the church and all its craziness, and just not knowing, you know, where we fit in or what God is doing. And I think God loves to use those broken things and those questions that we have, because the questions are good. And I think He enjoys us talking to Him and asking questions. And I think He loves to just show up where you have doubts and where you have fears and where you have you've been broken or scarred, and He loves just to show up and just to orchestrate all these things that point back to how beautiful and great He is. And so we're in the middle of this, our adoption. Fast forward all this time, we're sitting in the hospital room, and my wife and I and our son, baby Bashta, his name's Phoenix, had just been born. And so sitting there with the birth mother, and my sisters come in to meet the new little Bashta baby, and they bring this little stuffed lion with them. And I make this joke, you know, to my wife and my sisters, be like, it's only fitting, you know, that the first stuffed anything for the Bashta family, you know, is going to be a stuffed lion, and not like a stuffed teddy bear or, you know, like a Barbie doll or something, you know. And so the birth mother begins to tell us a story that has forever altered my out of my realization of who God is. And birth mother's lying there. She's a beautiful 17-year-old girl. And she starts telling us how a friend of hers invited her to come to a church service. And while she was there, this guy named, his worship guy, started singing the song about a lion. And she said that when she heard the words to the song, this presence came over her like something she's never felt before. And she's like, I had to sit down because I was being overwhelmed by this presence. And she said, I just started to journal out and write out the words to the song. And she's like, I went home that night, and when I got back to my room, I just started reading the words to the song over again. And she's like, that same presence that was at the church followed me to my room. And so I'm just looking at her just like, wow. And then I look at my wife, and she's crying. And I look back at the birth mother, and I was just like, well, I wrote that song. And she starts to just tell us just how she didn't grow up in the church. She wasn't a Christian. She didn't know really who God was. But she's like, that was the first time she said that I felt God. And for me, in all my doubts and all my questions, all of a sudden, I realized that my son, before he even knew who his fathers was, heard his father's song being sung over him. And my son, he was scheduled for an abortion. And just all of a sudden to hear this line, like, my faith is dead, I need a resurrection, And so it's forever. That the song now has like become not just a song that I wrote, but now it's something that God has just like, I don't know, just shown himself through to me.
It's a living parable.
Yeah.
It's the real deal. Yeah. That's the testimony I heard on the radio.
Yeah, it's crazy. And every time I tell it, it's just like, I'm just still blown away by just how supernatural and miraculous God is.
Good. And then your wife got pregnant.
Yeah, so my wife, she was, we were so thankful to God for our little, we always say adoption is a miracle. And so we're so thankful for our miracle baby. And a few months later, my wife was just out running. And she started asking God questions too, and God has made us whole. He designed us, and whenever there's complications, you have those questions of God. Where is my healing? When are you going to heal me? And she was being tormented because she really, it was a dream of hers to not only adopt, but it's also been a dream of hers to give birth to a baby, and because that's what God's created the beautiful women of the world to do. And she said while she was running, she was just asking God questions, and she just felt like God say, Taylor, it's not your job to try to figure out the miracle. She's like, all you have to do is let hope in. And when you let hope in, then that changes everything, and that's when the miracle shows up. And I think sometimes we get so focused on trying to figure out the miracle and try to figure out the healing that we lose sight of who the healer is and the creator is. And so we started writing the song about let hope in, and we basically just started using it as a prayer over our life. And it's, I speak to barrenness. So it wasn't just like just a nice, singing song, but it was like a command. I speak to barrenness. I command life within. Come live, you desolate. And I'll never forget the night that my wife, she walked down the stairs, and she just had this look in her eyes, and she looked at me, and she's like, we're pregnant.
Come on.
And
Come on.
So it's wild how God works. And this last year, we've been in the middle of our second adoption. And in the middle of that, 16 weeks ago, we found that we were pregnant. So, when you let hope in, it's kind of a scary thing. You never know what's going to happen.
I was going to say, he prayed, let hope in, and God's answering his prayer. That's awesome. Daniel, that's awesome. Okay, so you're a worship leader in Atlanta, Georgia. Audience, God's not dead. I don't know if you knew that. He wrote that. I mean, Newsboys changed the first line or something like that, but you wrote it, and but he's with so many other people. We all love Jesus Culture. You've been with them. If you ever want to have fun, go to your YouTube and just type his name. You'll see a whole bunch of worship songs, and you'll see them on there, and it's really awesome. But someone wrote in, when did you know you wanted to write and play?
Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up in the church.
That's right, that's
and
right.
I mean, a Christian family my whole life. My mom, she's a classical piano player. She played for the New Jersey Philharmonic. I mean, so music has always been a part of kind of, the Bashta existence, I guess. And I mean, I can remember as a little kid waking up when I was asleep and hearing my mom just playing the piano and just writing this new worship song, and I would just wake up and hear these songs and these sounds and just be like, there's something about them. So really, I don't know. I think I love creativity. I love all different types of art, whether from Broadway to film to production to design. I love all these different things, and there's something about, there's something about words and poetry and really songs there's something about the songs that change things and they stir up things, and we see, God uses songs for revivals, and God uses songs to usher in revivals and to change the atmosphere of every place we go. And so I don't know, something about that just intrigued me and just really shook me in my soul. And so we just started kind of slowly. I just started kind of writing these little songs for my youth group, and all of a sudden I'm to write something else. And it just like little by little, just God started opening doors and using these songs. And what happened with God's Not Dead is just, it just got certified gold, which is like 500,000 downloads or something. And it's like, but the funny thing is that like that really had nothing to do with me. We weren't like, hey, sing this song. It's just somehow that God used this song. And we were playing a few nights ago, actually a couple months ago, and this lady came up to me and she said, I had no idea that you wrote the song God's Not Dead. And I was like, yeah. She's like, well, I need to tell you this real quick. And she said, 6 months ago, I got in my car because I was just depressed and I was on my way to commit suicide. And she said, somehow, like I turned on the radio came on, and that song was playing on the radio. And she's like, I had to pull over because the presence of God showed up in my car.
Come on.
She's like, so,
see.
Never question the power of the pen and poetry and how God uses words.
So good. Of course, writing, you're an artist. Christ, your family, adoption. Where do you go, Daniel, from here? What's a passion? What are you out to do?
We just want to be a part of this generation, this next generation, to usher in, the presence of God, and also to usher in what He wants to do around the world. And I think God's looking for dreamers, and He's looking for people that, especially this generation, I think is just, there's so much passion in this generation. We sung the song earlier, Just Give Me Jesus, and there's a line that says, stir up my passion with more of conviction. And I think if this generation, and all the dreamers in this generation, full of their creativity and their passion, and also we can see the conviction of the Holy Spirit and the conviction of what God's doing to all of a sudden kind of just marry and kiss each other, then I think this generation is going to be unstoppable. And we just want to be a part of just, this great commission when God says to go, And so we love missions. We have a nonprofit called Go Motion. We do music, media, and missions. We do little documentaries. We've gone all over the world doing documentaries. We write, we do production, we do design stuff, and but really our passion and we know what God's called us to do is to be a part, the ultimate dream, the Great Commission, to see it become completed, and the great completion. And so that's what we're just giving our lives to, and it's a wild adventure.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Awesome.
Beautiful.